Hi, Gene here with today's thought. Today we're going to be going through a bunch of numbers. I'm just letting you know in advance, a bunch of numbers that you are going to find very interesting. I think they're going to blow your mind. They blew my mind when I actually took the trouble to look certain things up. That's what I'm sharing with you today. But first, a little quote from Ronald Reagan. You may have heard it. It's a very well-known quote. And the quote is that the 9 most terrifying words in the English language. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And we're going to illustrate that in spades today with the numbers I'm going to share with you. Now, these numbers have to do with 2 important dates in our years in American history, 1913 and 1970. So let's just review these 2 dates quickly. One of them, 1913, that is the year that the Federal Reserve was created with the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. So the whole point, the reason it was created was to prevent recessions and depressions. Well, we know how that worked out. The logic behind it was in the previous century, in the 19th century, they would have depressions, and they would call them panics. They were called panics in those days. So there was a panic of 1873, a panic of 1893, and a panic of 1907. Now, what's interesting about all 3 of these is that there was no Federal Reserve, but patriotic, conscientious millionaires, one in specifically J.P. Morgan, stepped in to save the country and pull us out of these depressions, these panics. 3 times he was the leader, but he would rally other millionaires. So this whole idea that millionaires are cruel people who hate the country cannot be more false. And the point is that the 1913 Federal Reserve Act created the Federal Reserve, and it was supposed to prevent these recessions, these panics from recurring. Obviously, that hasn't worked. Now, 1970, that is the year that Nixon closed the gold window. What that means that he took us off the gold standard. Before he did that, and it was supposed to be temporary. He announced it as temporary, but obviously, temporary is a long time because we are off the gold standard still today. Now, the numbers I'm going to be giving you are going to show you the effects of the creation on your purchasing power. If you're feeling poorer, if your dollar doesn't seem to go as far as it did just a year before, especially now with this inflation that we're having now. But if you go back, if you're my age, you go all the way back. And my dream when I was the age, early 20s, the age of some of you watching this video, I'm sure, was to earn $10,000 a year. And you're going to see why. Because $10,000 a year, you could live that was a good salary. We're going to give you the numbers in a minute. But what happened, the reason he took us off the gold standard, Nixon did, was because in those, before he did, the dollar was as good as gold. It was backed by physical gold. You could take your dollar and you could turn it in and get 35. It was $35 for an ounce of gold. You could turn in $35, get an ounce of gold. So this currency was solid, and the value was stable because it was backed by gold. Nixon ended that, to his great discredit. He ended that. The problem was inflation. We were experiencing inflation because of all these federal, just like today, all these entitlement programs, because this was, Social Security was in place for, ever since the 1930s, and then the war on poverty, Medicare, all that started in the mid 60s under Johnson, and so we had this great inflation. The value of the dollar was going down. So what happened was countries like France, overseas countries, they said, okay, well, we want our gold. Here's our dollars. Give us gold. We don't trust the value of your currency anymore. And we didn't have the gold. We didn't have enough gold. We were depleting Fort Knox, all our gold reserves, paying, keeping our promise to exchange gold for these dollars. So Nixon, quote unquote, as it was called at the time, closed the gold window, and people, you and I, nobody could redeem their dollars for gold anymore. And one result we see is that gold, the price of gold, last time I checked, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while, gold was about $1,700 an ounce instead of $35 an ounce. So you see, that's one effect right there. And why is it? Because Nixon, the same as today. Democrats say you're going to throw Granny off the cliff or whatever. And so instead of cutting spending way back in 1969, when it would have been easier to do, or admitting that these programs don't work or they have to, it's a whole subject for another day, but had he done that, we wouldn't be in the situation we are today, but he didn't do that. And so now I'm just going to give you some numbers now. Now, this first one, the country, I'll give you another date, 1789. That was the year that the current Constitution was enacted. Before, we were under the Articles of, you history buffs, the Revolutionary War ended in 1783, and we were under something called the Articles of Confederation. They didn't work, and so we had to throw it all out, write a whole new Constitution, which is the one, write a Constitution that we have today. So this is the important number. I'm going to give you. I'm putting it up right now. So here's the first one: $1 in 1789 up to 1913, when the Federal Reserve was over a century since the Constitution was enacted, and 1913 when the Federal Reserve was created. What was the value of the dollar? How much did it, spending power? How much did it deteriorate? And $1 in 1789 was worth $1.13 in 1913. In other words, from 1789 to 1913, the value of the dollar went down by 13 cents. You had 13 cents less purchasing power. Now, this is going to really blow your mind, because and I put a link in the description so you can go right to this online inflation calculator that I used and run any numbers you want all by yourself. But this calculator goes all the way back to 1635. So I went all the way back to 1635, and look at this: $1 in 1635 was worth $1.19 in 1913. So if you had $1 and $1 in 1635, it would cost you $1.19 in 1913 to buy what cost you $1 in 1635. But what has happened since then, since the Federal Reserve was created, and all these, monkeying around with interest rates? $1 in 1913, what you could buy for $1 in 1913 would cost $31 and a penny in 2023. So you see how stable the dollar was until the Fed was created, and how drastically the value of your dollar has gone down since 1913 till today. So I was talking about 1970, right? So $1, this is when the gold window was closed. So from 1913, when the Fed was created, till 1970, when Nixon closed the gold window, it cost $3.92 to buy what you could get for $1, to have the purchasing power of $1 back in 1913. But look what happened from 1970, and we see what was $1 in 1970. You would need almost $8, $7.91 to buy what you could buy for $1 in 1970. And this is what really gets me, because I remember how much better I lived on a lower salary than you do today. And I'm going to show you my dream when I was a youngster was to earn $10,000 a year. That was my goal, to earn. If I could just earn $10,000 a year, I would be happy. That was my dream. And you could work at a checkout counter in the supermarket, and you could make $10,000 a year or about that. The average salary today, as I'm speaking today, is $59,428. And you say, wow, that's pretty good. That's real. Wow, almost 60,000 bucks. Well, in 1970, the average salary was $9,870 a year. And so you say, wow, $9,870, around $10,000 in 1970, and today the average salary, $59,428. Wow, that's really fantastic. Well, prepare to get your mind blown, because $9,870 in 1970 is worth, are you ready? You better be sitting down for this, $78,101.72 in 2023. So you see, you think you're doing well there. We went from 9,870, now it's 59,428. No, you lost. You lost because you would need 78,000 bucks to afford the lifestyle that you could afford with $10,000 in 1970, and that was the average salary. The average salary is nowhere near 78,000. So you see how much money you've lost. The Federal Reserve screwing around with interest rates and closing the gold window and destroying the dollar because it's not backed by anything. Had it been backed by still been backed by gold, then we wouldn't be in this situation, and maybe we wouldn't have all these entitlement programs. But hey, if you can buy if you're making only 10,000 bucks and you can buy what 78,000 bucks by, you're doing okay. You don't need the entitlement program. So you see the problem there. And well, I guess that's it. That's all the numbers I have today. So that's my thought for today. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.